How's it going, you guys? Welcome back to the Fumble Live. Yesterday was a huge day in the NBA, and we're going to be giving you all the details of everything that's gone down in the last 24 hours. It's pretty history-making, so I'm excited to get into it. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and share it with your friends. Now, here's the Fumble Squad. I'm Devin Howard. You can find me on Instagram as @DevinHoward. Chris?
It's your boy Chris. You can find me everywhere at CK2K.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl Jackie Ray. You can find me everywhere at JRay the Fanatic.
Hey guys, it's your girl Britt Johnson. You can follow me on all social media at I am Britt Johnson.
All right, we have a lot to unpack here, so let's dive right in. The NBA is officially continuing on with their season, according to Woj, but the last 24 hours have been jam-packed with updates, and like I said before, it's been kind of a history-making moment. So the NBA, throughout their time in the bubble, has done a lot to show their support for Black Lives Matter, but in the wake of the police shooting of Jacob Blake, many players have expressed that the league simply isn't doing enough. On Wednesday, the Bucks took the first step in demanding change from within the league. They chose to not take the court for Game 5 of the first-round series against the Orlando Magic. And then shortly after that, the following two games, which was Houston versus Oklahoma City and Portland versus Lakers, were postponed. So the Bucks' decision to sit out kind of had this ripple effect across the league that ultimately led to a meeting inside the bubble to discuss next steps. But Chris Haynes reported before Wednesday's decision to postpone the games that the NBPA Executive Committee held discussions with the players who were considering sitting out games after they were, quote, emotionally traumatized by the latest police-involved shooting of a Black person. He also reported that players began reaching out to the committee in recent days, sharing that they're really not in the right frame of mind to be playing basketball right now. So that all contributed to everything that happened yesterday. And then during yesterday's meeting, the Lakers and Clippers voted in support of canceling the entire season, while the majority of other players voted to continue on with the season. After the Lakers and Clippers made their stance clear, Udonis Haslem spoke up and asked how the season could continue without the two of the top finals contenders. David Aldridge reported that the meeting about continuing the season ended ugly last night. And then, of course, there was another board meeting this morning with the Players Union, and that's when Woj reported that the agreement had been made to continue on with the season. Woj also tweeted that today's 3 playoff games will be postponed. They're currently discussing when games will start up again. The expectation is that players will suit up and return to the court on Friday, but that could change. And there also will reportedly be another meeting later today with 2 players per team, and they'll be discussing plans of action moving forward on social justice issues. So I think the takeaway from all of this is it's clear that athletes are feeling exhausted. They're exhausted with the rigor of being in the bubble, with the constant news updates about police brutality and inequality. Each team has had to overcome an incredible set of challenges to get to where they are, and it seems that some of them have just reached their breaking point. LeBron James was one of the people, I know, Jackie, I think you might be talking about this later on in the show. LeBron tweeted that, things need to change, this needs to end, but he also was singing a different tune this morning, and he decided that it was in the NBA's best interest to finish out the season, but he does want owners to be more active and more involved. Taylor Rooks tweeted that sources said players realized leaving the bubble would take away their platform, and they felt that real change and awareness can come from working in Orlando on this big stage, which is something that I know we've discussed on this channel before, that having the attention of a national audience is a great way to spread a message, as they have been doing, but obviously they want to do more. So the question that I have now, and I'm sure this is something that a lot of people are wondering, is what happened between last night and today that motivated some of these players to, be okay with picking the season back up again? What has the league agreed to do to, satisfy their desires to raise awareness without sacrificing the whole season? Now, I don't have any specific questions for you guys, but I just think that this was such a monumental moment in the NBA and, in this social justice movement. And I'd like to open up the floor to hear what you guys think about everything that's gone down in the last 24 hours. What are your expectations moving forward? So why don't we have Britt, do you want to start off and tell me some of the things that you've been thinking about?
Well, first, I do want to point out that LeBron made it very clear that it wasn't postponing of games, it was boycotting of games. He said on his social media, stop using the word postponing, we boycotted. And he wanted to make it clear that it's a thing that they decided to do, to boycott the game, not, oh, we're just going to postpone it or whatever. And so I thought yesterday, obviously, a lot happened. I honestly want to give a shout out back again because I did talk about yesterday on Britt's Take about the Detroit Lions, because they were the first to kind of do this. They were the first team, and I think they did it on Tuesday, and I think everything kind of trickled down from there. Everyone's like, you know what, maybe this is a time we need to sit out. We don't need to play, and it is a lot of, because after the Jacob Blake situation happened, all the teams did play. They all had a game where they had played in the NBA. And it wasn't until after the Detroit Lions said that, it's emotionally draining. It's whatever. We can't do this. We need to take this time and protest. And then from there, obviously we saw it trickle down. The NHL did not join suit. I guess I didn't think that they were going to do that. But, from the WNBA to the MLB to the NBA, it was really cool to see everybody do that. But again, moving forward, what happens? I know for a little bit I was thinking, dang, maybe Kyrie was right all along. I know everybody tried to clown Kyrie, including me, about the fact that they can't get stuff done in the bubble, and their emotions would get the best of them and they wouldn't be able to focus. And that's what we saw in yesterday's moment is, maybe players, once it happened again, and it's something that now is fresh, instead of the George Floyd situation had been, removed a little bit. Everybody got those opportunities to protest before going into the bubble and being around their family and stuff, but it happening again, and then people are like, I don't have my family and loved ones around me. I can't go and do what I actually want to do, which is maybe get out there in the streets and protest, or go to, the district attorney in that area and whatever the case is. So I think that that I thought was really noticeable yesterday. But also Damian Lillard commented on a site that had said something about what happened yesterday in the meeting with Kawhi and with LeBron James being the one stepping up saying that we need to cancel the season and stuff like that. And he said, where did y'all get your information from? So I don't necessarily know that what the media is saying is actually accurate, because Dame and a couple other players have just kind of posted that's not really what happened in the meeting. So I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if the Lakers and Clippers decided to actually be the ones that said we're not going to do this and everybody else voted for it. I don't know if it was LeBron and Kawhi that article had said, or whatever the case is. And I don't think we're ever going to know. So I don't know if it's something that LeBron just changed his mind from yesterday to today. Now we're going to have a season or whatever, because we don't really know what actually happened in the meeting. And the media likes to just, whatever is a better headline for them, they're going to want to say. So I don't know if I believe that the meeting went down. I think maybe people had thoughts of oh, maybe this is an idea we could do. We could not have the rest of the season, and this happened, and then today they made the final decision to do it. But I don't think any final decisions were made last night, and people were storming out of the room and all that kind of stuff. I think that was a little crazy. I don't think that really happened, just because we've seen several athletes come out and just comment on some of those things and say, I was there and that's not what happened. So I don't know. But moving forward, I think the NBA, I'm excited. I don't know what they're going to come up with. I don't know what's going to work. But in Britt's Take, I actually have some advice that's given from Eric Reed, who obviously we know nilled with Cap the whole way through and has been nilling the last 4 years. So I think he has some advice for the NBA players moving forward, and I do hope the NBA players actually take note of it and listen to what Eric Reed has to say. But I'll get into that more during Britt's Take.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Chris, I want to go to you. What kind of promises or what kind of changes do you think happened Sorry, let me start this again. What kind of promises do you feel the league made to players in order to get them to kind of warm up to the idea of not boycotting this season? What happened, do you think, from last night to this morning?
See, that's the question I did not want, because that's the question I have. That's what I was saying. I'm here thinking like the decision that was made yesterday from the players. I'm not even gonna say league wide. Obviously, yes, the league and the NBA then followed suit to what the Bucks, and I'll give the Magic some credit too, because the Magic could have easily counted that game as a forfeit and took that win and then gone it 3-2 in the series. So I'm giving the Magic credit too for going with the Bucks on that boycott, and then of course then following suit. So. And then to hear the reports, like Britt just mentioned, you're hearing the reports from the Clippers and LeBron James and the Lakers saying that they're ready to, call it a season and whatnot, and then for it to just be completely flipped. That was my biggest question. Did I think that we would have the season end? To be completely honest, no. I didn't think it was going to be over, but I didn't think it was going to make such a 180 in the short space of time that it did. Not even a full day that the decision has been made. So I'm hoping, like you said, Devin, I'm hoping that there was some kind of agreements or some kind of added pressure that, or there was a kind of answer given by the owners or people upstairs in the NBA that there's going to be some kind of changes to be made. I just don't know what that is, because I would like a little bit more transparency on that, because I don't have the answer to that question there, because that's the question I have as well. I think that was one of the biggest things that LeBron James was saying that I completely agree with. Like, these owners, like, they can make these videos, they can say what they really want to say in the commercials and blah blah blah, but they have power, and they know they have the power, and if they're really about it, they should be the ones that should be doing something more while your players are out there pursuing championships for your teams. You know what I'm saying? I agree with LeBron James on that, and I think that they can play basketball with that. So I'm hoping that when we hear some kind of response or follow up as to what's going on, I'm holding my breath, but I'm hoping that there's some kind of plan that's going to go forward with the owners as far as what's going to be taken next. Because next step can only be action. And especially if they're deciding to come back and play as quickly as they're deciding. They're saying as soon as tomorrow or sometime over the weekend. So I don't know. So I'm sorry if I don't have an answer, because that's my question as well. And I'm hoping that we get some more answers to that as the day goes on.
Well, Jackie, do you have any theories as to what kind of agreements the league made in order to get players to be more open to not boycotting the season?
Yeah, I honestly think they went in there, and I don't think they came to any sort of agreements about, what changes will be made. I think they went in there and they said, hey, guys, where's your list? You know what I mean? We understand that you're upset, and we've tried. We've got Black Lives Matter on the floor. We're really doing the things that you guys said you wanted us to do. What do you want us to do next? And to be honest, I don't think that they had a list, because I think that's one of the things that I've talked about on my platform a lot, is that the Black community does lack leadership. So I think that in that moment you get very emotional, because it is infuriating, and especially I that's another thing that I said on my social media. I think that Black people should stay off social media for a while, because it's infuriating to see. I saw it has to be a good 50 tweets of non-Black people tweeting the white kid that was shooting Black protesters, and they said, oh, I want him to run for president. Yep. Like, that kind of stuff is mentally traumatizing, you know what I mean? And so it does trigger you. It triggers you into no, what the hell, stop the presses, we need change right now. But it doesn't give you time to really sit down and do a plan. So I'm positive that the NBA went in there and said, hey, okay, let's get through this, because we've started this. Let's keep the conversation going, because that's been the narrative this whole time. Let's keep this conversation going, and then let's set some dates. By this time, you guys will tell us, what you want, what you think we should do, and by this time, we'll tell you how we can implement that, or if we can't. I think it was just one of those planning sessions about a planning session that made them say, okay, they're open to listen to us. But I don't think anything changed in that specific meeting.
Yeah, to your point, Jackie, like, I remember when everybody did the Blackout Tuesday after the George Floyd thing and made, a black screen, whatever, on their thing. And prior to doing that, I had posted the day before on social media, and I was like, hey, everybody, like, use this day to be off of social media and to come up with action plans and do this, that, and the third, and like, what's next? This is a day we need to do for that. Yeah. And I got so much criticism and negative whatever from, some of my Black girlfriends and guy friends, like, no, this is a day we're supposed to just like do, post Black people stuff, and the white people aren't supposed to post, and we should be able to post all this kind of stuff, and our businesses and our this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. Yeah, you can use the day as that. That is whatever. But now here we are 3 months later and we're in the same situation again. You know why? Because people just kept posting on social media and didn't actually come up with game plans for stuff. And I think your point is so valid, because that's literally the problem. We just keep reposting stuff that we kind of have already seen at this time, and we keep, doing it that way. And yes, whatever, you might change a couple people's mind with posting and stuff, but if that's all you're doing, you're not doing much. And if you don't take time away from that to be like, okay, I need to think here, like what actually needs to happen in order for me to not have to post and for there to not be hashtags moving forward. Right. But the point is for us to not have hashtags anymore that say Black people's names of being killed by police brutality or whatever, like that is the point of this. So let's try to get off social media in that aspect and focus on what we actually need to do so we don't have to continue to post this stuff on social media.
And if we're going to talk about mental health too, that's another thing. Like we're talking about Paul George, which I commended the other day for coming out and talking about his mental health issue. But as Black people, we got to be honest. And if you're saying that you'll be scrolling through, you'll see a cat, you'll see a funny guy jumping off a building and it's funny, and then you'll see 20, things about this situation, Jacob's situation, or you'll see somebody tweeting about something you didn't even know about, and that's what's infuriating. You'll always get to that one that you'll be like, oh my God, we're not even talking about this over here, and then oh my God, we're not talking about that over there, and oh my God, here's 20 white people saying that they want this racist guy who's killing Black people to be president. It's too much. We need to take a break, and I think when we take that break, we'll be able to not only heal ourselves, like you have to start there. You can't go into any planning session mentally discombobulated. You have to take a beat and be okay, and then go back to the table.
Right, and that's your phone too in general. Like I literally get crazy anxiety attacks. Like they're like out of this world. I freak out over like if something changes in my day-to-day schedule, it can freak me out. Like I literally will start shaking. I can't breathe right, like all this kind of stuff. So I purposely, like if I have stuff that I'm doing in a moment, I don't check my phone. Like anytime even on vacation, I never have my phone out. Anytime you see me posting something, I have reposted what somebody else did because I didn't have any pictures or videos from the whole entire event because I didn't take any because I don't have my phone. Like I have to detach myself from my phone because if somebody messes up my schedule, it can literally like give me anxiety and freak me out. So like just not even your social media. Sometimes just disconnect from your phone. Like my phone is always on silent. And like, yes, people get annoyed because they're just like, I called you 7 times or whatever, but I'm just like, well, I was reading or I was meditating or praying or I was working out, right? I'm not on my phone. I don't have my phone attached at my hip. And I think that that's what, honestly, aids in a lot of the mental health issues that we have because we're always like on somebody else's minute and somebody else is like, oh, we need to contact them and you don't have to make an excuse why you're not by your phone. Simple as that. Sorry, I saw the message when I saw it, but like this whole society is just like they want responses from everybody immediately and they want that. And so it literally is so much on a person that they can't even just I need my woosah moment. I need my time. Right. So that is like such a good point. Your phone, social media, get off of it. Like get off. Yeah. It's a lot.
You guys, I want to talk to you all about, really quickly before we wrap up, Need to Know News. How do you think other leagues might be inspired by this? Obviously, we have the NFL set to start soon. Do you think that this is going to change the way they handle their upcoming schedules? What do you think is going to happen across the sports world? Oh, great. Go ahead.
Just real quick, Pete Carroll came out. He was asked that exact question, basically, like once season starts, which is supposed to start in a couple weeks now. Did he expect boycotting to happen in the NFL? And he said that it is literally like it's something that like is a possibility. And he said that he calls it like the protest season or whatever. And he said it's not something that needs to or will end until there's actually like change that happens. So he's like, as long as it takes for us to actually get to that point of change, then we're protesting till that point, So he said, as far as like the boycotting of games, he's gonna lead with his team, whatever his team kind of decides to do in that thing. But as far as like just making sure that they, keep pressing the gas on that. He said it's something it's not supposed to have a beginning and an end to it. It's going to end whenever that change happens, but there shouldn't be any date put on it. Yeah.
Jackie, do you have anything that you want to add in regards to how other leagues may respond or, handle this?
My eyes are just squarely focused on the NFL because they have missed it from day one. And I know that they're saying, changes are coming. I think it's a complete bold-faced lie. I think they'll present change because that's the time we live in right now. But they're definitely going to keep a tight grip on it. So I'm just focused squarely on the NFL and what they're going to do. I don't expect to see anything from the NHL. The NHL is completely racist as it is anyway, so I don't expect to see anything from that. Major League Soccer, I think, will kind of lead the charge in a lot of ways, and I'm just anxious to see what they're going to do. And then, of course, the WNBA has always kind of slam dunked it. So
yeah, they've been on.
If everyone wants a model, maybe look at the WNBA.
Yeah, they've been on. That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And 7 NFL teams also protested today and didn't attend practice today as well. Mm-hmm. So
I don't know why, but I'm not geeked about practice. It's practice, you know what I mean? Like we don't even get to see their practices the way that we used to. Can't go to training camps the way that we used to. So we see it on social media, which is great, but I want to see when all eyes are on the NFL, when we're watching these games, what are they going to do then? I mean, practice is cool, but it's practice. It's not a game. So
Chris, I want to ask you, I know that, Jackie, you kind of just talked about this, that the NFL is a lot of talk and very little action. Do you trust that the NFL is actually going to respond appropriately or take some sort of action, or are you kind of cautiously optimistic? How do you feel about that?
I can't even be cautiously optimistic anymore when it comes to the NFL. I'm so sorry. And the thing is, I do believe, so maybe I am. So maybe I am still sort of cautiously optimistic when it comes to NFL. But to answer your question, you said that they might sort of do something. That is what I think is going to happen. They're going to sort of try and do something, and it's not going to have the impact that it might initially. You might see it like, oh, that's the NFL doing something different, but then it's going to have the value won't be completely there. I think that there might be some done. What that is, that's up to the NFL to decide, because they've had some going on in this entire pandemic with everything that had started with the social justice and people fighting back on that. They've had some minor little bunts. I wouldn't say complete home runs, but they've had some moments that had us like, oh, all right, NFL. So I think that they have opportunity to do that again. I don't expect any home runs, but I expect them to do something because they know they have to do something. Sort of like on the same tone of what Jackie had said. I think that's just what you have to expect when it comes to this league, and I'll be very happy to see them completely prove me wrong. But yesterday was the anniversary of a very important day in the NFL that they are trying to take back and try to act like never happened, and that is the first time that we saw Colin Kaepernick, or I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just, I don't know. I'm very skeptical when it comes to the NFL in a lot of things, but yes, I guess I will still stay cautiously optimistic when it comes to that.
Chris, do you see any team or any couple leaders in the NFL being the ones to try to lead away? Because again, we all have to have a leader in some instance.
Yeah.
Who's going to take charge? Like yesterday, the Bucks were the team that took charge and said, we're boycotting, and then kind of it trickled down after that. Do you see a team in the NFL that could be that team that kind of you think their coach is on board and they have leaders on their team that could be that team that starts the push?
That's a great question, because I think we know for sure the players, because we always talk about Eric Reed all the time. Yeah. We always talk about Kenny Stills. Those are the guys. Malcolm Jenkins. Yeah. Right. When it comes to team, man, that is a great question, because the teams that you would expect and you would hope, I don't know if I can completely co-sign them. I know I can't say my Saints, and that's just the reality of that situation, because we know from top to bottom, how that works. So I'm going to be real about that. But that's a good question. Pete Carroll is probably one of the ones I would think first. And here you mentioned that, so I would expect something around those lines. But that is a great question when it comes to a full team. I don't know if we're going to get one from a full team. I think it's more so on the players.
It's because the Dolphins have so many, black leaders, black people in positions that we're just not used to seeing anywhere else in the NFL. So I would say the Dolphins, because it directly affects them. So it would make sense for the leadership of the Dolphins to say, hey, guys, so they'll lead the charge for the players, and then maybe the players will follow suit.
Yeah. It's weird though with the Dolphins, because it's their owner is a really big Trump supporter. So it's so weird, because it's from like it's like he's been able to take who he is as an owner and keep it separate from the team, but I don't know how deep that line is, like how in the ground that line is of like this is a team and they can do what they do as a team.
Yeah.
These are my personal beliefs, but I mean so far that he has done a good job in that, but I don't know how far he's willing to let that go.
And he was, the Dolphins owner, he had set up like inner city give back things long before Cap even started kneeling. So clearly there's a disconnect. He grew up in Detroit, he said, so there's a disconnect. He understands what community needs are, but his money trumps. Literally, his money trumps. So
I honestly think I could see maybe the Ravens possibly doing it as well. I don't know.
Yeah, Ravens.
Well, it won't be the Patriots.
Arizona Cardinals. I know Cliff's as a coach, like he's been very vocal during this time. Maybe the Cardinals, but it's in Arizona.
It's
so
Arizona,
right?
like, exactly.
But
exactly.
Is very like he's a super liberal guy, and he like has been posting a lot about the Black Lives Matter movement. So I could see. I don't know though.
I think it's easier to count out teams than it is to say this
right.
one. We know it's not going to be the Broncos. It's not going to be the Patriots. It's not going to be the Saints. It's not going to be the Cowboys. It's not going to be Washington. It's like
Washington. Yeah.
Washington was one of the teams today that boycotted though. So with their new president, maybe he changed. He keeps talking about it on his social media. I follow him on social media now, and he's been very adamant that changes that come in, as Chris would say. So we'll see, because he has a difficult job right now. As soon as he got the job, he got that.
Sure does.
Harassment charges, the new videos, and
send that man a care basket just to make sure he's okay.
Right. Has anyone checked on him? Let's check on him real quick.
Jackie, I want to ask you, so yesterday when we talked about the potential of these teams sitting out some of their playoff games or canceling the season, I know that you initially didn't feel that that was necessarily the best move, but how do you feel now that this conversation, even just the threat of boycotting the season altogether, how do you feel about the impact that it's made so far? Do you think that it's kind of making progress towards their goal?
I feel the same way today as I did yesterday, and again, because I didn't follow my own advice, I didn't stay off social media. I feel that, but now I'm more profound in my feelings as I had yesterday, and I think what this is doing is it's pissing off the white fan base, and they're hunkering down in their racism. So I don't think it's going to help at all. I do, and I said this on my YouTube channel if y'all want to go over there and see that, but I said I don't think that this message specifically did anything, like Britt said, to change the mind of racist people. I think what it did is hopefully sparked something in Black people to say, okay, here are these people that are willing to say I'm done with it, just to try to make change. And I think that we as Black people, we needed to see that. We needed to see that, yes, we need to figure out a way to stick together and move forward despite whatever racists are out there, or despite whatever they think, that we need to stick together and do it. But I think that message was more for us. But as far as like getting this whole awakening across color lines, it definitely didn't do that. I think it kind of had the opposite effect in that regard.
Britt, do you have a different opinion to Jackie? Because I know yesterday you felt like if players feel they need to do this, then we support it. And I feel like I'm with you on that one. How do you feel about the impact that it's had so far?
I mean, I still feel like whatever the players want to do, it's up to them. And there were players prior to this NBA bubble who decided to opt out because of what they wanted to do with the social justice movement, and we haven't heard anything from them since then. So I do think that being in the bubble actually is helpful in making sure that, their message continues, because every single player that left or did not attend the bubble because they wanted to focus on that, we haven't heard anything about it. So I don't know how effective that actually was for them. So I think that being in the bubble, obviously, and finishing out the season is actually a moment that's it's proactive, it's moving forward, and it keeps you're on people's minds 24/7, because we saw what happened to the players that did not decide to go into the bubble. So but again, if a player feels like they need to leave even at this time to go do whatever, or a team decides they don't want to play, I'm for it. Like whatever, again, they feel comfortable doing and want to do in that moment, I support. But the big goal is like, we need the action, and like Jackie said earlier about going to the the owners and, NBA probably came to them last night and said, okay, what do you guys want us to do? And they didn't have a game plan. So that's always the most important thing. If it means sitting out even just these couple days and resuming play on Sunday or whatever, so you guys can have time to sit and come up with a game plan, then do that, like whatever it takes to make sure we actually start seeing things actually moving. And then again, we don't want to lose their voice either. So I do agree with staying in at this point.
Yeah.
And to wrap up Need to Know news, you guys, and move on into the post-up, Chris, I know that you don't have any theories as to what agreements were made last night, but is there anything that you think should happen or that you would like to see happen now that they are continuing on with the season?
That's another good question, because the thing is, like we talked about yesterday, and Fred VanVleet said it perfectly. It's just one of those things where, as much as we are bringing the attention to the situation, and that's something that I'm very proud of the NBA for doing, it did start to feel very. It started to feel very like, okay, this is expected. All right, they got that out of the way. Now let's talk basketball, kind of thing. I don't know how you go about continuing to bring the message, but also add action to it. Like I said earlier, and LeBron had said it, I hope that this ad applies pressure to these owners. And I heard somebody talk about, there are other teams. There's 8 teams, and now a bunch more teams that just got, booted out of the playoffs. There's other teams that are not even in the bubble that we're not hearing anything from, my Knicks included, and stuff like that. And they, they're still in the NBA. They are the ones that are not in the bubble that can be doing stuff. And I'm not saying that we're supposed to see everything on camera. I'm not there here for that. But in that same breath, there are still players, there's still front office members, there's still tons of people within the NBA that can pursue and continue to make action that they can do that these players in the bubble cannot do right now. So to answer the question, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer to give, because I don't know what they can do to continue outside of just continuing to keep the conversation, keep the ball rolling, and keep this whole situation in people's minds. Because I feel like that was the biggest thing with the Bucks choosing to boycott yesterday, was the fact that it was being talked about, which is the NBA has not had a problem with having people remember what's going on and talking about the situation. But now we need action. So the NBA could do whatever they want to do to, that whatever it was that helped the players be like, okay, cool, let's continue to play, whatever it may be. I just want to hear some sort of plan that there will be action taking place, whether these players are in the bubble and some going on from upstairs, or it's from some of the teams that are not in the bubble. I just want some kind of action being made, or a plan for action to be made, whether it's now or whether it's when the bubble is over. That's all I hope to hear coming from this, because to be honest, I don't have a theory on what is to be what they decided to do inside the bubble right now, because I don't know what they can do differently that they already haven't been doing.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you guys really quick, and this is kind of for anybody. So to the point that I was making about, the bubble being a way that we can still see and hear their voices and whatever the case is, do you think that players are just not doing anything because I just thought of right now of Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills hasn't been playing football. It's not like it's in football season right now, and literally for the last couple months we've talked about him a bit. We know what Kenny Stills is doing without having to be on a football field to use that platform. So do you think that it possibly for NBA players that are not in the, because I've actually seen, to your Knicks point, I've seen Taj Gibson do a couple things or whatever.
Yeah, Mo Harkless, Taj.
Yeah, Mo does stuff. Mo posts stuff a lot.
Shot Allen Houston. Mm-hmm.
So, but is it possible that these guys just aren't really doing anything? Because maybe you don't need that platform of being on a field or a court, because we've been talking about Kenny Stills and he hasn't been playing right now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
I think it's entirely possible that some athletes are maybe apathetic or worn out from the situation and they haven't done anything. But I do think that having the international spotlight of games and media interviews at post-game definitely helps them speak out and get attention. But yeah, you're right. It's maybe not necessary for them to be playing or whatever. But
Yeah.
at least that's my take on it. I think that there are definitely some athletes who are probably just kind of like, what can I do at this point?
And
But that's
Kim's always
always
been a
been-
big athlete, to be fair. Like, he's not like Odell Beckham Jr. or Patrick Mahomes, but yet we all know him now because of social justice. Even Eric Reed, I would say.
Right. And
Right.
that's always been my problem. I know that I'm kind of odd man out on this one, but I think I've resigned myself for, instead of being hopeful and saying, oh, kumbaya, one day we're all going to get along, I think I just kind of live in the moment and see the situation for what it is. And I think that we need to I think as black people, we got, the NFL is predominantly black, the NBA is predominantly black, but yet we're insistent on going to white owners and saying, help us. I think that is asinine. I think that when you have these black people who have this platform and they have this financial backing, you be the change. If they catch up, they catch up. If they don't, they don't. But we're at this point now where we can do in our communities, we can put the dollars in our community. We can start greasing the wheels of politics just like these owners do, and we can make a difference in our own communities. We don't have to go to these white owners and keep asking. That's the problem I have with this whole movement. It's the same thing, different day. We are still asking for stuff that we can be demanding and doing on our own. So I definitely think that the players hold more responsibility than the owners, because the owners don't have an investment in our communities outside of getting us to be on their field or on their court. They have no investment.
I say it should be both. I think it should be both. Not the asking, though. You're right. I completely agree about the asking part. I think more so applying pressure. But in the same breath, while you're applying that pressure, you're out there doing your thing with the power that you have, a la LeBron James. You know, you're applying that pressure to the owners, and I think he kept mentioning that, and that was one of the big, things. You got to apply that pressure to them, because they should still be held accountable, because they're the ones that are so focused on these players playing for their money. So apply that pressure. You might not get anything out of it, but still apply that pressure while still doing your part and, putting the money in the pockets of us, what I'm saying, and put it in our communities and so on. So I feel like it should be both. I hear you, because you're right. We should not be asking, talking to these owners, and then hoping that, all right, we did our part, so hopefully James Jones can do something now. You're right. No, you're 100% correct on that. But they should still have some pressure put on them, as well as them going out in the fields and doing stuff themselves, like Brett was just talking about, like the Taj Gibsons and, the Kenny Stills and stuff like that. So I still believe it should still be both, because we know they probably won't do anything about it. We just named a bunch of teams and owners that won't do a damn thing, but they should still have the pressure put on them regardless. But on top of that, the players themselves doing the work themselves on top of all of that. I think it's all just as important.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, this was a really great conversation, and I really appreciate hearing all of your perspectives and your points of view. For those of you watching, if you do want to take some action and get involved, you can call your local and state officials. You can call Kenosha officials. Register to vote, make sure that you cast your vote, donate, sign petitions. There are ways to get involved, the same things that we have been doing for the last 2-3 months now, or even longer than that, but especially in the last 2-3 months. But just make sure you are making your voice heard as best you can. And on that note, Chris, if you can take us into the post-up.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for post-up with your boy Chris, quarantine edition, update edition. As you would expect, this today's post-up is definitely going to be about a lot of everything that happened yesterday within social media, at least within the NBA and outside of the NBA. But I want to start off with the team that pretty much, I wouldn't say they pinned it, because Britt did make a good point, because the Lions were one of the first teams to boycott, whether it's practice or not. They did boycott first, but in the same breath, the Bucks making their decision to boycott started the domino effect with other teams, and now to the point where now the playoffs won't probably be resuming until maybe tomorrow or maybe Saturday. So with their decision to not go out there and play their game against the Magic, it was Game 5. That could have been the game to end it. They later came out with a statement where George Hill came out and had some words to say, and then it followed with an official team statement that the team had put together. But it was a longer video, so I can't play the entire video, but I did want to bring it to two parts. I wanted to break it into the beginning from what George Hill said, and if we could play that part right now, Leo.
Well, as you can see, we all thank you guys for taking upon your time to stay here with us. We're sorry that it took a little bit more time, but we thought it would be best for us as a team to brainstorm a little bit, educate ourselves, and not rush into having raw emotion, giving you guys things like that. So on behalf of ourselves and our team, we're going to place a statement as a team today and go back and continue to educate ourselves and get better awareness of what's going on, and then speak to you guys later. So we'll come up with.
Yeah. So that was great. I think, and we're about to play the second part of this too. But it's funny because Jackie had mentioned it earlier because we talk about it all the time, especially before the playoffs even came back. The NBA is so open to listening to their players, and as long as they have a list, they have ideas, they have the what they want to do. The NBA more times than not, about 75% of that list, they will listen to it, they'll hear it, and they'll apply it. As we saw that they did right now, they got Black Lives Matter on the damn court, so they hear what the players have to say. But from that, hearing them and seeing all their faces and stuff like that, that led me to believe what Jackie had said, where when they did have that meeting, it seemed like they knew that they wanted to do something. They just didn't know exactly what to do yet, but they knew that the first step would be to, we should not play today, and we should go forth and lead to the conversation they had. So I'll give them credit for that, and I applaud them on that. But after that, Sterling Brown then led the team-written statement talking about, addressing what had happened in Wisconsin with Jacob Blake and, the team not feeling that it is important to be playing basketball right now. And, it was good, strong part of the statement. I can't play the entire statement, but I do want to go back to George Hill once again, who read the latter half of that statement. And he said this.
When we take the court and represent Milwaukee and Wisconsin, we are expected to play at a high level, give maximum effort, and hold each other accountable. We hold ourselves to that standard, and in this moment, we are demanding the same from lawmakers and law enforcement. We are calling for justice for Jacob Blake and demand the officers be held accountable. For this to occur, it is imperative for the Wisconsin State Legislature to reconvene after months of inaction and take up meaningful measures to address issues of police accountability, brutality, and criminal justice reform. We encourage all citizens to educate themselves, take peaceful and responsible action, and remember to vote on November 3rd on behalf of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yep. Basically saying that they are going to educate themselves and learn the moves on what is to happen next. Because like we talked about it, the attention is there. The NBA has done a great job of getting the attention. Now it's time for action. And as that statement said, the Bucks, and I'm assuming the other teams, other players, as we've been hearing, that is the goal for these guys and for the players and so on and so forth, is to figure out what needs to happen next. What do we do next? A lot of answers to that. A lot of people probably know what should be done next, but in that same breath, it's the bubble and attacking, going after a championship and stuff like that. Those are all things that they're trying to worry about now too. But in that same breath, shout out to the Bucks for taking that first step. I'm still a little iffy on how they're coming back, but I mean that we'll find out. I'm hoping that we'll get the answers to whatever was said in those meetings that led to them just completely flipping the switch. But speaking of the Bucks boycotting that game, I want to talk about Kenny Smith, and I feel like we're going to have some opinions on this, so I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. But Kenny Smith yesterday, we know that this boycott happened and it was not planned, as it shouldn't have been. So that being said, Inside the NBA was still slated to play to come on that night prior to the games, the Wednesday night games, and because of that, the boycott, they still decided to come on, and they decided to have everybody on the staff, a lot like what we're doing right here, just come on and speak their mind on the decision that was made and what they should do. And Kenny Smith decided to make this powerful statement and powerful action. Here's check out the video if you haven't seen it already.
I think the biggest thing now is to kind of, as a black man, as a former player, I think it's best for me to support the players and just not be here tonight. And figure out what happens after that. I just don't feel equipped.
And I respect that. Shaquille.
So I think we know I'm gonna go with this one after that action. I want to go to you first, Jackie Ray. So after that move by Kenny, which a lot of people are applauding, myself included, a lot of the talk came to Shaq and Chuck and them choosing to stay and continue to talk. I just want to know how you feel about the decision from Kenny and the decision from his counterparts.
I've been very open about my lack of respect for Shaq and Charles Barkley. the fact, Shaquille O'Neal becoming Papa John Shaq kind of says it all to me. That's what I call him on every social media platform I have. I call him Papa John Shaq because he literally decided to kind of help change the face of a organization that had blatantly expressed racism. Chuck sat over there and did. I'm trying not to call him, any bad names, but he literally did over there like, oh no, boss, and took his little tea and like was like, it was the most, it was the biggest display of buffoonery I've seen in a long time. And again, it's one of those things where, they're going to get paid for the day regardless. And I respected Ernie for saying he respected that, and I loved how he looked at Shaq like, well, so what you gonna do? And then Shaq's not about that life. Shaq does things in the community, but there's always a caveat to it. There's always some other payout to it. So I just don't have any respect for these two men. So I wasn't surprised. I did not at all expect them to follow suit. I didn't even expect them to say, hey, regardless of what I think, this is my brother. These are I was a basketball player too. I'm going to support my brothers regardless. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect them to show any signs of solidarity or to support at all because that's not who they are as people. So it went like I thought it would go.
Mm-hmm. And I want to bring the same question to you, Britt. Do you think that with Kenny making the decision that Shaq and Chuck, they should have done anything? Or do you think that they were fine making the decision to just continue to stay on the show?
So I understand how it feels to like go into a situation where you would like, I don't know if Kenny assumed that his coworkers would have his back or not. Right. I think he maybe thought it was going to happen. I don't know if he felt some type of way in the moment or after the fact, then looking back and being like, dang, like I thought we were all brothers and we were all in this together. So I don't know what his expectations were, but this happens all the time. It happens in every workplace. It happens in the NFL and NBA. There's always going to be a situation where like somebody's like, hey, this is wrong, something's happening here, like, hey, blah, 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 and then you expect, people that you kiki with and you talk to and stuff to have your back in situations, and they just don't. Like, so I'm not surprised that this happened because this happens all the time, so I'm not surprised that it happened at all. I feel for Kenny in this situation, and that's just, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I expected anybody to do anything or to go or to not go. That wasn't really like my thought in that moment. It was just like, dang, like, how does Kenny feel now? Like, what is he like looking at as like, dang, like, don't we like laugh? And weren't we talking about this in like the green room before we came out here? Like, where were you guys at? Like, I thought we were supposed to be brothers or we're supposed to be in this together. And unfortunately, a lot of times, people that you think have your back, or you could even have conversations like, "Hey, we about to all do this," and then people leave you out to dry all the time. So I don't know what case was into that moment, like what led up in that moment. If they had conversations in that moment, and all of them were supposed to leave, and then they didn't, or if Kenny just like surprised them in that moment and said it. I don't know what the case was beforehand, but I definitely like felt some type of way about how Kenny felt.
Yeah, I think like you and Jackie said, I don't know if I was expecting anything to come from it, but you bring up a very good point because we don't know the conversation that had happened prior to it, and that could have been the case. But it also could have been something where Kenny, it looked really like he thought of it right there to happen, but we don't know. We don't know the case, but I agree. But hey, shouts to Kenny for doing that. Was not expected. To be honest, this entire Inside the NBA broadcast was. I'm glad it still went up, even though there was no basketball, and that leads me to my next one, which was Chris Webber, who I give a hard time to for being a sports broadcaster. Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry.
I start crying.
Yeah, he killed it, and I was prefacing by I give Chris Webber such a hard time being on TNT because his announcing abilities aren't the best, but his message. When he was giving you could tell he was just he had something to say, and the minute that microphone went over to him, I think he absolutely killed it. Once again, I can't play the entire thing, but I do really want to play the whole second half of what he said because it is very important, and I'm not sure if everybody in the chat has seen and if you haven't, and even if you did, I want you to hear and see it again because it was very important. I mean, he started the whole thing talking about his personal situation, how important. people like LeBron James, and in his example, it was Charles Barkley. These people are people that kids and basketball players alike, or athletes, or whatever, painters, musicians, whatever, you look up to these people. So their decisions and their choices and what they're telling you to be doing, they're telling you to vote. These things are important to these kids, and he started off by talking about that, and then the latter half is the part that I really want you guys to listen to. So here's Chris Webber just preaching on Inside the NBA.
That's all I just want to hear from the rest of the night, where everybody's pontificating and thinking and soapboxing and all of that. We know nothing is going to change. We get it. If Martin Luther King got shot and risked his life, Medgar Evers, if we've seen this and all of our heroes constantly taken down, we understand it's not going to end. But that does not mean, young men, that you don't do anything. Don't listen to these people telling you don't do anything, because it's not going to end right away. You are starting something for the next generation and the next generation to take over. Do you have to be smart? Yes. Do you have to make sure that you have a plan? Yes. Do you have to be articulate about that plan? Yes. All of those things. But that's what you're going to do. They're professionals. They know how to be the best of themselves. And so I applaud it. I applaud it because it is the young people. It is the young people leading the way. And I applaud them.
Seeing the stare off, boy. Yo, I felt that. Just he came in. He wasn't even looking when Ernie turned it over to him. Looked right at him. Did that like slow, like Denzel, like, okay, y'all ready? And he kind of went in and he was preaching. And the way he went out, just looked right away. I said what I had to say. I said my piece. Y'all take it away now. Just everything he had to say about that. It was very well put. We talk about what needs to happen and everything that we go back and forth on. Are they doing this right? Should they do this? Should they not do that? But I don't feel like it's given enough credit for when these things are done, regardless if it is in the way you might think that it should be done. As an example, like the Bucks deciding to boycott the game and then leading to what happened. There's people that feel like you guys are still going to go back and play, so was it really worth it? But the point of the matter was what had happened was important and was on all of their minds, to the point where they felt like they needed to do something to get the attention of the masses. And it did. And I think it did exactly that. So in the same breath as Chris Webber, he's saying he applauds them. He's proud of them to take that step to, show that strength that you guys have, even though, it might not be agreed upon by everybody, especially all the people that we tend to talk about a lot in those comment sections and in on Twitter, and the ignorance that is on Twitter right now. So shout out to them. So I feel like it was really important for Chris Webber to lead that commentary the way he did. So shout out to Chris Webber for that. That being said, like I said, it was a surprise to everybody. The boycott that happened yesterday, starting off with the Milwaukee Bucks, surprise to everyone, like the referees who weren't expecting what happened to happen. And today, early this morning, the entire referee, all the referees and people that were, I don't know what their actual terms are, but people who review plays, everybody that's within the referee association, they went out and they marched on the campus in Orlando today. You saw this video here of them, marching and staying solidarity to the players that decided to boycott the games yesterday. And like we said, there will not be any games today as well. So it was a nice gesture for them to, show that they have the players back, and they're with them in the march that they had on the campus. And I had absolutely no problems with this, but we talked about it, and I feel like a very strong message came from the WNBA. And I hope I'm wrong. I know obviously here on the panel we know about it, we saw it, we heard it, we mentioned it. But I feel like it got lost in the sauce with everything that was going on, and I'm glad that I'm able to talk about it here, because while we're talking about the NBA that decided to boycott, and then we had the Brewers and the Reds from the MLB, we talked about the Lions and stuff like that, but we also I don't feel like enough attention was brought on to WNBA too, who are also in the midst of their playoffs as well. They decided to they squashed the whole day as well, but on top of that, coming out with a strong message, everybody wearing shirts that had each letter to Jacob Blake's name, but on top of that had 7 bullet holes on the back of the shirt in the design to obviously symbolize what had happened to Jacob Blake, and and they went out there, and you were seeing the shirts right here. I missed it, but she had come down with the back. You can see the design on the back and turn around. So it was just there was so many things that they were doing that I feel like was being I won't say blanketed. Just I don't feel like enough was said about it, because there was also some strong messages that were said by players. This video was posted by the Mystics, because the majority of the Mystics were in there. There's a bunch of things that I feel like were lost in the sauce with this. And I actually want to come back to you, Jackie Ray, and like we mentioned it very briefly earlier that you said it, WNBA they have been I don't want to say the golden child, but they have been the model to follow with everything that's been going on, because this is not just now. They've been about this for years. You know what I'm saying? And it's just crazy that now that the NBA is coming in, no shade, but now that the NBA is coming and doing this stuff, they get the headlines, and you're still not hearing about the WNBA and what they're continuing to do. Yep. So what was your thoughts on the message that they are continuing to push out following everything that went on yesterday?
So when I saw this, I had to kind of check myself a little bit, because I haven't, and just to be honest, I haven't watched a WNBA game. Not for any other reason than I just simply haven't had time. You know what I mean? But then there was a side of me that I had to check myself. I was like, these women, let's just take out the social movement that we're on right now. These women have been about that life since day one. Correct. And for myself personally, how can I tell people stay in the fight when I don't even support women who have been in the fight for day one? That's number one. So I was like, let me start watching some WNBA games for that reason. But I think like you said, I think it's just very inspiring, and these displays. I know you earlier you said that people are out there doing stuff. We don't necessarily need to see it on camera. I think you and I are that way, but this generation in its totality needs those visuals. So this kind of stuff needs to be televised. This statement with the bullet wounds in the back, that I cried when I saw it, because it paints a very specific picture. Mm-hmm. So I think that them doing this is something that needs to be supported. This organization needs to be supported. Mm-hmm. I'm talking to myself, because like I said, I just admitted that. So. And these women need to be supported, because regardless of their low pay and the lack of attention they have always been in the fight, and that's commendable to me.
Yeah, they've always been using the platform they have, and you can say whatever you want to say in the chat or on Twitter, whatever. It's a little the platform that they have, because you're still talking about them. They've been using it the right way, and they've always been using it the right way. So definitely had to show some love to them. But on that note, that's it for me here on the Post Up. Thank you guys for listening.
All right, Jackie, I want you to take us into what we're not going to do. I don't want to sing today, because I feel like we have a really great mood going, and I don't want to trivialize it with my off-key singing. So please, take it away.
All right, we're going to get into this, what we're not going to do. You guys have to hang out with us a little while, because we're running a little late, and I definitely want to get into these Brits takes as well. So just get comfortable in your chair and just hang out with us a little longer than normal. But I just want to break things down, because this is actually what we're not going to do, Jackie Ray Vent section, because there is a narrative going around that truly troubles me, and I want to see if it troubles any of you. I hate this phrase of things don't happen overnight. Change does not happen overnight. That to me is an asinine statement, because the Emancipation Proclamation happened in 1963. Most slaves didn't get truly free. That's why we celebrate Juneteenth in 1965. Emmett Till was murdered in 1955. The Civil Rights Movement started in 1958 and it ended in 1968. The U.S. government intentionally started injecting black men with syphilis to see how that disease would run its course in 1932. That did not end until 1972. In 1985, local government dropped bombs on a black community in Philly to try to stop unrest. In 1991, officers were seen beating Rodney King, taking turns like it was sport, and they were acquitted. In 2014, we had Mike Brown. In 2014, local government was completely negligent, and now we have the Flint, Michigan water crisis, which has still not been resolved. In 2015, Sandra Bland was murdered in custody of police. They took her picture after she was dead. They took her mugshot after she was dead, and it's been ongoing. Philando Castile, obviously George Floyd, it's been ongoing. So what the hell are we talking about when we say change doesn't happen overnight? Because if you do the math on this, it's been 157 years. It's not overnight. This is something that we should demand. It should happen right now. This is not something we should say, oh, but we're slowly getting there. No, you've been 157 years is hella slow, y'all. Just putting it out there. So I think it's time for us to move forward. So somebody in the chat asked, like, if it was up to us, what would we do? This is what I would do. If I was an NBA player, NFL player, regardless of fines, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to play my game because this is what I love. This is what makes me money. This is the money that I can actually invest back into my community. But I'm not doing one interview. I'm not talking about my game. I'm not talking about what's going on in the world. I don't want to hear you guys asking me anymore about how I feel when I see another black man unarmed being shot and killed by police, or in this case, attempted to be killed by police. I'm not talking about it because we've been talking for 157 years. And if you don't get it by now, you're not going to get it. So I would not talk. I would have closed door meetings. I'm not interviewing about anything. I'm having closed door meetings. And I would say, hey, to my owners, I need you to help me get through legislation. I need you to push through. If a cop is violent, even if he's excessive violence, or excessive harm or whatever, and he doesn't even actually take someone's life, he automatically needs to be fired and he can't be rehired anywhere else in the country. If he shoots an unarmed person, regardless of if that results in death, he needs to be fired from the police department immediately. His pension needs to be removed, and there needs to be automatic jail time. There has to be a list, because I'm telling you, when you start hitting people in their pockets, when cops are afraid of losing their pension, they are all of a sudden they're going to, this training that they have, because you keep saying let's retrain them, they're trained. They know they're not supposed to draw their weapon unless they have an intent to kill. They are trained that way. I know that. I went through the academy in Denver as part of my scholarship. That is a part of the training that they get. They draw it anyway. So that is what I would do. I'm not talking to you guys about any sports. I'm not talking to you about my emotions. Until I see these things done. NBA, you want a list? There's a list. I don't have anything else to say until this list has been completed. On top of that, since we out here talking about, change doesn't happen overnight, if we really believe that, then we have to keep that same energy across the board. We have to believe that when Nick Bosa posted this back in 2016 and said, Colin Kaepernick is a clown, that he still believes that despite his apology, because there's no way you're trying to convince me that change doesn't happen in 157 years, but it happens in 3. And all of a sudden this person is a different man. I'm not trying to hear that. I'm also not trying to hear that when Joe Burrow took to his Twitter and posted these tweets and then all of a sudden deleted them, where he said that these monkeys are just going to town when talking about black athletes, and that the Bulls better guard our white boy, when he was talking about that. When he posted those racist tweets, he can keep this one. He can keep this one that says, how can you hear the pain that black people are going through and dismiss it as nothing? How can you hear the pain and respond with anything other than I can stand with you? So you're trying to tell me that change doesn't happen in 157 years, but this is a different man in 3? Stop it. I'm not trying to hear it. We should be done asking. We need to make these demands now, and we don't have anything to say to anybody about anything until they happen. That's what I would do. I have no questions. Chris, are you ready to get into Brit's takes?
I'm ready. Brit's takes.
Am I on? Was that my cue?
Yeah, I'm
Okay. It's a somber show today, so we're just a little melancholy. So I talked earlier about, and we've been talking the whole show about what should the NBA do, this, that, and the third, moving forward. And I wanted to mention again, like the Chris Webber situation. I did love his interview, but there was one part in it that he missed. And when he said that he doesn't care about the action right now, we don't need to have an action plan. We need to just do something or whatever. But that's been the problem this whole time. We just keep doing something with no action plan. So, yesterday, obviously, Chris quickly mentioned it, was 4 years to the day that Colin Kaepernick first sat in a preseason game during the national anthem to protest social injustice and police brutality in the country. Yes, I said set because he sat that first game. After that, he had spoken with, different military people, and they said, to respect the flag, could you kneel? And that's why he started kneeling. But the very first game, he did sit down, and it was 4 years ago yesterday. Tuesday, the Detroit Lions became, like I said, the first team during this moment of Jacob Blake being paralyzed, to boycott practice or a game to protest. And, Wednesday, it seemed like everybody else kind of followed suit, with the Bucks obviously are leading the way with their game, and then everyone else kind of followed, except for, obviously, I mentioned the NHL did not take part in any sort of protesting and boycotting of games yesterday. The big question is, though, like, what's next? You know, that's what we've been asking ourselves this whole entire show. I'm sure you guys watching at home continue to say, like, what can we do next? What is moving forward? I know a lot of NBA players are asking, what's next? You know, I know obviously some guys like LeBron James and whatever are more seasoned and older in their career, but a lot of these guys like Giannis and Ben Simmons kind of guys, they're really young. They're in their early 20s, so they are honestly trying to figure out how they can lead best in their situation as well, whether it is from home, because like certain teams like the Sixers have already been sent home, or whether it's in the bubble or whatever the case is. Everyone's probably just trying to figure out what they can do to move forward. So Eric Reed, we all know who Eric Reed is. If you don't know who Eric Reed is, he's basically been the guy that actually did not get fired from his job and was allowed to continue playing football, even though they mysteriously did a million different drug tests on him every single season since then to try to see if they could get him out or find some way to whatever, just get under his skin by kind of just pump faking him all the time. So Eric Reed has continued to nail this whole entire time. He has been very vocal on, police brutality, social injustice this whole entire time. So he decided to go to Twitter and kind of speak to the NBA, who's now in a moment of power. The NFL was really, honestly, at the forefront of all this stuff, and people were looking at the NFL to do stuff, and they missed the mark a lot. So now the NBA is actually in control of this moment. So he wanted to give some advice to the NBA, and he said, if you want to throw up that tweet, Leo, NBA players, please build on this moment. Avoid being co-opted. The people have worked too hard and risked too much for corporate PR from their role models to set them back. We don't want or need ride-alongs. We need change. NBA, I hope you've learned from the NFL atrocities. And when he was talking about ride-alongs, that was one of the things that I didn't like from the Roger Goodell interview when he did stuff with the uncomfortable conversations with the black man, is that he said that a lot of, the NFL owners, they've been going on ride-alongs, so they're starting to learn and whatever. So that is what came from that part. But he literally was just like, listen, we've messed up as NFL. He's like, I've tried to do what I can do, but now we're kind of giving you guys the reins of all professional teams to lead us in this way, and hopefully you've learned from the mistakes that the NFL has made. And he's not just talking to the NFL or NBA players here, he's talking to the owners, he's talking to Adam Silver, everybody in that group. He's talking to everybody to really make sure the NBA doesn't mess up what the NFL has already very terribly messed up. So the next tweet I want to read, I actually got from it's a woman named Bree Newsome Bass. I personally didn't know who she was. She is an activist, but I found out who she was because I follow Kenny Stills, and Kenny Stills had posted it, and I thought it was very important because she had a very good message of what
what happened? Did we lose Britt?
Else? Okay, looks like we lost Britt. Maybe we can give it like a minute in case she comes back and is able to finish her take. But in the meantime, do you guys have any response to what she was discussing? Anything that you guys would like to add?
No. Chris?
No, not really, because I think we had all mentioned what Eric. Oh, here she is. There she is.
She back.
I
said I got one. Yeah, see, y'all don't want me to school y'all. See, people are playing with me. They do not want me to tell people what's going down here, what these athletes need to do, because I was getting to that moment where I was going to say what these athletes need to do here. So, let me get to this part because they might try to cut me off again. It's these spies in the NFL world and the NBA world that don't want these players to be great. So, she is an activist, and she has been speaking out And she, a lot, just to different things, like, here, this is stuff you can do, this, that, and third. And she wanted to specifically speak to the athletes. And she said, and I quote, this is another quote if you want to throw that one up, Leo, "Athletes, please connect with local organizers who've been leading the fights in your cities. Most already have well thought out demands and initiatives they've been working toward for years. Your support can be the breakthrough they need. Listen to them over the local establishment." I thought that was perfect, and I think that's something that the players really need to do. Like, forget trying to figure out some game plan yourself. There are people that have already been, activists and doing this for years and years and years, and they just need maybe whatever it is. Unfortunately, yes, sometimes it's a famous person that can be like the voice of what their whole plan is. So go to whatever your community is, because we always talk about it really is the local community. It needs to stop at the local level first, then the state level, and then becomes national. But really go to, I think all the players should just go and speak with just local activists in their area. Not everybody needs to go look at Sean King and just do whatever Sean King says. No, go to your local level and go talk to people that are in your communities, wherever it is you play, you live, whatever, in your communities, and figure out what game plan they have and take their lead. They're the ones, you can be professionals at basketball, and you guys are professionals at this, that, and the third, and you guys probably own businesses or whatever. These people have been working as activists and working in the communities, probably some of them for 15, 20 years. Take their lead on this one. Go with what they say. Go, like, it's very easy. Just go into those situations. There's literally different meetings you can go to. You can look up stuff of different groups or whatever. In my area, they have neighborhood councils and stuff that really just work in the community and try to get things done in that specific community. And I really think that is honestly the best and next action move that these players need to do, is go back to their whatever, if they're in Milwaukee, if they're in Los Angeles, or even their hometowns, wherever they're from, if you want to go to Akron, Ohio, and just really take their lead on this one, and it's not to say that you're just a basketball player and you don't know how to lead a movement, but these people literally, as much as you spend working out and doing all this stuff, that's how much time they spend doing this kind of stuff. So I thought that was a really important point to take, and I think it's something that should just be the next move for all of the players, is go to their communities and figure out what people are already trying to do and what game plans they already have in their communities and take it from there. Chris, my first question is going to be to you. Do you think resuming the season was the right move for the NBA?
I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, I don't know what else they could possibly be doing from the bubble. So I think what you said was perfect. I feel like that there's more, and Jackie had said earlier, so I think, it's more so about what they are doing within the communities and who they're talking to, like you had just mentioned. Yeah. But as far as continuing the season or canceling the season, I think like I said, we are already calling all the attention to the NBA we're seeing, or all the attention to what is at hand, and I feel like they can continue the season. Is not going to make a difference whether they did or did not. I think it's more so about what they do outside of basketball. So I'm okay with it.
Jackie, my next question is going to be for you really quick. So I know we've talked about, it's no point in ending now because they've already been in the bubble, they already started this. But do you think initially Kyrie, or now looking back, Kyrie was right and we should have just never had a season in the first place?
No, I definitely think we needed to have a season, because once again, we're talking about what the players are doing. It just brings it to the forefront. I mean, you kind of need people like LeBron James, and you need, Dame Dollar to say these kinds of things to make people think. Yeah. I've already said that I don't think it's going to change the minds of anyone. It's actually, like I said, it's going to make them hunker down. But nonetheless, I think it's inspiring to those who want to get out there and possibly do something, and to see their favorite player, or their entire team take a stance. It's going to inspire those who want to get out and do something. It's going to do nothing in the grand scheme of changing the mindset of people who are where they are. But I think on that level, it's good to see. And it's good to see, unlike we saw on TNT with Shaq and Chuck, it's good to see unity. It's good to see an entire team walk out. It's good to see, both teams. It wasn't just the Bucks did. It was both teams. They both because like Chris said, they could have pushed for the forfeit, but they didn't. They protested together, and I like that you said that LeBron was very adamant. It's not a postponement. It's a boycott to protest, and so it's good to see that level of unity across the board from different teams and from different people. So the visuals for those of us who are really about that change life were flawless, and we couldn't have got that if they weren't in the bubble.
And then last question to you, Devin. Do you think that the threatening to end the season could have been more of a scare tactic for the owners that like LeBron and them could have been using to say, hey, we could actually not just boycott this game, we could boycott this whole entire season if y'all don't want to step in and help us out? Do you think that's an option that could have possibly, because we did see that change of just last night to this morning?
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's not actually something that I even considered, but now that you mention it, I could totally see how that was used or potentially could have been used as a scare tactic, because to have the two best teams in the West say, we're scrapping the season, we're not going to do this anymore, I mean, that would be scary for owners, it would be scary for the league in general, the other teams in the bubble right now. I'm not entirely sure that was their motivation or that was what they were trying to do, but if it was, I think it might have worked, because I think that we're on the brink of seeing some real change happen with the league. We're seeing a lot more, I think we'll see a lot more activism and, just true actionable steps to create change. So I'm not convinced that they were using it as a scare tactic, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys. That is going to be it for Britt's Take today. It was, I don't know. I mean, let me know what you guys think about what Eric Reed said. And could the NBA actually be the one that makes a difference that the NFL couldn't step up and do? But let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below.
All right. Well, you guys, these last 24 hours have been historic. They've been pretty game-changing, and I personally am feeling optimistic that we are going to start seeing some movement happen. I hope that's the case, but in the meantime, we'll be filling you in on all the details as they come out, whatever we hear from the bubble, from different athletes, other leagues in general. I think that there's going to be a lot to talk about. So make sure you tune into our show tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Subscribe, tap the bell, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and share it with your friends. And of course, wash your hands, be a good person, wear a mask, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everyone.